All right, there's a question here from Memes. In my opinion, if physics hadn't worked out for Professor Feynman, would he have been able to make it as a stand-up comedian?
So they start to explain it to me because they thought I was a genius.
You know, I'm not enough of an expert in stand-up comedy, so I don't think I could give a really informed opinion of that. I think Dick Feynman was always a good presenter and a good explainer of things, and he also liked doing. He was quite the thespian.
So then he's explaining how it works. The chloride comes in here, the uranium nitrate from here comes in here, it goes up and down, it goes through the floor, comes up through the pipes coming up from the second floor, through the blueprints, down, up, down, up. Very fast talking, explaining it. Very complicated chemical plant. I'm completely dazed. Worse, I don't know what the symbols on the blueprint mean.
I never saw him in you know, he would be have various kinds of parts in student plays at Caltech and so on. I have to say I never went to a single one of those plays, so I can't speak to his thespian qualities and abilities. I think
there's some kind of a thing that at first I think it's a window. It's a square with a little cross in the middle like this, all over the damn place. Lines with this damn square, lines with this damn square. I think it's a window. No, it can't be a window because it ain't always at the edge.
It wasn't, I will say, that in terms of sort of pop culture, I don't think Dick Feynman was quite as up on that as people might have been. I have to say, I remember this one terrible incident where the theoretical physics seminar, actually probably one that I organized at Caltech. This must have been 1981, 2-ish type time frame. And Dick Feynman had a terrible habit of sort of trying to figure out what the magic floor. I mean, in fact, he had this competition going with me to try and find sort of who could figure out the fatal flaw in what was being said first.
I want to ask him what it is. Now, you must have been in a situation like this. You didn't ask him right away. Right away, it would have been okay. But they've been talking a little bit too long.
And anyway, one of these seminars was going on, and
you hesitated too long. If you ask him now, they'll say, "What are you wasting my time all this time for?"
Dick Feynman had a friend who was also a friend of mine, Rick Field, who, and somehow, I don't know, Dick Feynman and Rick Field had been discussing, somehow they were describing things in terms of turkeys and people being kind of turkeys and as in kind of, not getting it, kind of dumb and so on. And so, but Dick Feynman didn't know that the term turkey was a general term for, being dumb type thing. So anyway, so in one of these talks, at some moment he says to Rick Field in quite sort of in plain, audible form, something like, "It's time to pass the cranberry sauce."
I don't know what to do. I think to myself, I swear, often in my life I've been lucky. You are not going to believe this story, but I swear it's absolutely true. It's such sensational luck.
Thinking that was kind of an encoded version of, I think this guy, this person is a turkey. Of course, it wasn't so encoded because knowledge of pop culture would reveal that, the turkey idea was a very popular meme, so to speak. So I'm afraid that was a Dick Feynman not quite in touch with the memes of the day kind of thing. And I think he was certainly somebody who liked, particularly in his earlier years, liked the kind of prankish type of thing. I would say he was not a telling jokes. I'm trying to remember whether I ever heard him. Oh my gosh, let me think about this for a second. He would sometimes imitate people who he thought were, he was not he wasn't.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
I would say that he would tend to make fun of kind of the experts saying these very erudite things and not understanding the core point. And I'm afraid one of the people he would often make fun of was Murray Gell-Mann, the person who invented quarks, who had an office sort of right next door with an assistant in between the two of them, but to him for many, many years. And Murray was a very kind of erudite, pronounced every word perfectly. And Dick Feynman was definitely the coarser New York, Brooklyn type accent type person. And Murray would always be expressing these sort of names from other languages in these very carefully pronounced ways, and Dick Feynman would always make fun of this and imitate Murray and sort of imitate some strange thing where he would sort of claim that Murray was making some sound which was involved you sort of spitting everything out to make the sound or something like this.
I got an idea. Maybe it's a valve. So in order to find out whether it's a valve or not, I take my finger and I put it down in the middle of one of the blueprints on page number 3 down in the end. I say, what happens if this valve gets stuck? Figuring they're going to say that's not a valve, so that's a window.
So he would tend to make terrible fun of sort of the erudite, so to speak. And I think he always believed in kind of breaking things down into their sort of simplest parts. I kind of like that too. But I think his patience for sort of the erudite and the expert was never very high.
So one looks at the other and says, well, if that valve gets stuck, and they go up and down in the blueprint, up and down the blueprint, or they're going up and down the blueprint, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, they both look at each other and they chick, 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 and they turn around to me and they open them out like this. You're absolutely right, sir.
And he would certainly imitate things that people would say, which were, where they were, he would talk about things, I don't know, he'd been on a textbook commission, for example, and he was very unhappy about, people telling him, I can't remember the specifics of, but Professor Feynman, nobody will understand that. And he would sort of explain that in a very, in a way where he was kind of imitating the way, he was not a great mimic, but it was amusing that he would sort of try and give the full kind of version of what was said as an imitation, so to speak. So I would say my overall rating would be great expositor of science, not great stand-up comedian. But I'm not really completely sure what it takes to be a great stand-up comedian.
They rolled up the blueprints of the way they went, and we walked out. And Mr. Zumwalt, who'd been following me all the way through, he says, you're a genius. He said, I got the idea you're a genius when you went through the plant once and you could tell them about evaporator C21 and build 9207 the next morning. He says, and when you knew all about the neutron, you were a genius. But what you have just done, he said, was so fantastic. I want to know how do you do something like that? I told him, you try to find out whether it's a valve or not.